All Things TechIE podcast is a product of the Extreme Media Network. For advertising and sponsorship opportunities, please visit www.extrememedia.ie. That's XTREME media.ie.
Audio visual from an Irish perspective. This is the All Things TechIE podcast.
It's just Dawson. It is the All Things TechIE podcast. It's episode 30, listeners. Wow. Welcome to Dublin, Ireland, and the backdrop. It's evening time in Dublin, Ireland. It's quite miserable outside. Yeah, this is a green screen. I won't lie, this is a green screen. And do you know what? I love my new Stream Deck. I've been playing around with the Stream Deck so I can do things like this. And bring up the music again. So, coming up in episode 30, earlier on today, I caught up with the guys, the ones that were on a program earlier in the year, back in March, where we started talking about COVID-19, believing that it was going to be something that maybe would close down the country for about 2 weeks. How wrong were we? How wrong were we? Okay, maybe there were some people on that panel that said, no, Justin, this is going to go on for some time, like Joe Way and other people. And as the countries and countries, plural, start reopening again, we ask what's in store for AV, what's in store for conferences, schools reopening, holiday plans, and more. It's the All Things TechIE podcast, episode 30.
The All Things TechIE podcast. Subscribe, like, and share.
It's episode 30 of the All Things TechIE podcast. Who would have thought that back nearly 4 months ago, we were joking and laughing, saying, hey, we're in lockdown. Yay, the kids are home. Everyone's at home. We can work from home. We can do whatever we want from home. Who thought we would still be here several months later in July? To give you the Irish perspective, we're into phase 3, which actually is phase 4 and 3 combined together. What does that mean, listeners? Well, it means that the pubs have opened up again if you are having food that is a substantial meal. Now, a substantial meal equivalates to €9 a person each. So what?
Interesting.
$7, Michelle, or so.
Yeah.
But you can only stay in the venue for all of 90 minutes.
Oh.
So, after saying that, our schools are still talking about opening in September with a 2-meter distance. Creches have reopened, but they work in pods. I haven't sent my son back to creche. You can go on public transport and travel around the country now, not just the town or city that you're in, but they do recommend as mandatory that you wear face masks, but no one is actually enforcing that. So our Friday and Saturday nights was just chaos in the city centre with pubs and clubs because no one was social distancing. So there is sort of a pushback on whether we have to close the pubs again. What is happening over in England? Who wants to take this up? Graham, Adam, what's happening?
Go, Graham.
Jason,
Wow.
Jason, do you want to tell us?
I mean, so thankfully I'm far enough away from London to be even on the outskirts of seeing the chaos of reporting on the news. But I think it went viral by about 9 o'clock Sunday morning. The picture in Soho on Saturday.
That's right.
Where there was estimated to be over 5,000 people in Soho Square alone drinking.
Wow. That's insane. Was there no police around? Is there anyone adhering to this? Is there anyone?
Police don't have the power to disperse the crowds, apparently.
Right. So
You know what helps? You get mounted patrol, because that's what they do down in New Orleans.
Michelle, on the Black Lives Matters rally in London 3 weeks ago, there was and its rider, who was a female police officer, actually attacked not by the Black Lives Matter. It was actually a far right extremist group that got involved. So the mounted police here aren't protected. I mean, the people that don't care.
Really? That's horrible.
It's horrific. It made our news. It was horrific. You saw the horse get attacked. It was disgusting. But when you compare the pictures of Soho to the fact, and Jace might laugh a little bit because it's a bit closer to him for home, you go 160 miles north up the M1 to Leicester, they're on about putting effectively a Springfield Simpsons 1990s episode dome over the top of Leicester and completely quarantining the entire city. So, I mean, it's crazy.
Simpsons movie in Leicester, is it? Yeah.
You've got London, which is carefree, and Leicester, which have got to be so careful. I mean, and I don't know. Do these people think the virus doesn't travel by air? It absolutely baffles me how London just forgot for the weekend.
I do wonder if London's reached that herd immunity that everybody was on about right at the beginning. Because they were infected tremendously right at the beginning, and their infection rate's really low.
Are you able to use public transport? Like in London, is the Underground going? Is it operating?
The Underground has never stopped.
All right.
I mean, they got to a point where they restricted the number of stations that are open, and I think that's almost now at capacity now of reopening. And there were certain periods of the time that unless you were a key worker, you couldn't use the Underground. But throughout this, the Underground has never stopped.
The images they were showing of it didn't look any different, did it? It looked like the Northern Line on a Monday morning.
Yeah.
Wow.
Packed.
Okay, let's go into the transport. Is it mandatory to wear a face mask now on public transport in England?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
And is anyone
since the 15th of July? Sorry, 15th of June.
Enforcing it? Is anyone
It's mandatory in Texas now.
Right, okay. What about creches? Is creches reopened for you guys? Are schools reopened? Have you got rid of the kids?
Got rid of one of them. My 5-year-old's back to school now because he's in reception, so he's been back for about 3 weeks. The nursery my little one goes to, that only just reopened, but because I think my little boy, he finishes in 2 weeks' time, so we just thought I might as well just wait till September to send her back. But it's been quite nice. It's been hard work, but it's been nice having them around, really.
Are you still able to work from home, Adam?
Yeah. I've been into work like twice in 15 weeks. So, but I'm starting to try and get back about once a week now because I've got, like 21 installation projects queued up, ready to go. So I need to start getting some stuff done.
And what is
my social media folk are about 3,000 cold calls. But anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Chris now has just put that on Instagram as well. You need to be careful.
Everybody's got my number already, so it didn't make any difference.
Oh, it's such a. But yeah, so similar to what Adam was just saying as well, Justin. I mean, Penelope's 5. She's back at school alternative weeks. So she does a full week, and then the week that it's not a full week because my wife's a key worker, she's there on the days my wife works. So of the 6 children at home, only Ben, who's in year 8, hasn't returned to school since they've started relaxing and doing the reintroductions. He hates it.
Are they doing full school days? Because there's talks here in Ireland that, okay, do we have to keep the 2-meter distance? Do we work with the kids in pods? And if we work with children in pods, there's not enough room, so maybe some kids will go in some days and other kids will go in other days. Is that what they're doing in England?
Well, my son's back. He's got a bubble of about 10 in there. They're doing 4.5 days a week, full days. So we drop him off in the morning, pick him up at just after 3 o'clock. They shut at lunchtime on a Friday to do a deep clean of the school. Apart from that, it's back to normal, really. I mean, 5-year-olds, how successful are they going to be at social distancing? To be fair, they all understand it. They're all doing their best. They forget from time to time, but from what I've seen of the school, they're having a really good time. They're doing a bit of learning, but it's just sort of like a bit of childcare, really. But he's loving it. He needed to go back. He was really missing his friends, and he's really thriving again now. He's really enjoying himself.
Yeah. Now, what about your universities, Adam? Are you going to open in September?
So yeah, I think universities they're all different, but we've said that the University of Hertfordshire has said that they will reopen. I think 15th of September for the start of term. So we are still going to be a bit of a blend of teaching. So I think for big activities, it will still be online, but we're encouraging all the students to come back and sort of, have the university community. But yeah, the big sessions will be online. There'll be a bit of a blend. So we'll do live stuff, tutorial groups where we can do the distancing and stuff in our smaller rooms will still be run. But yeah, I think like a lot of universities, we had to sort of say before the UCAS applications closed what you'd be doing, and I think most people just said it'd be a blend of teaching while we sort everything out. So
Joe Wade is joining in with us. I thought Joe was busy. Joe is actually joining in with us. Oh, we have trouble now. Joe, I thought you were busy on a call with the National Public Radio and our podcast wasn't important enough to come on board. But you're here.
They rescheduled to Thursday.
Oh,
so I have to do my national press on Thursday instead.
Nice.
To let our listeners all in on the secret, Joe is telling the whole of America pretty much how his campus is going to operate during COVID-19. What are you guys going to be doing, Joe? Are you all online? Are you going to have any students from September?
We are not all online, regardless of what the press would like to say. We are majority online, but we have a number of courses that will still be held on campus in some form or fashion. But the students are coming back. We are encouraging people to, do what you can remote just for safety's sake. But the campus is open. We're upgrading 300 and some spaces. We're already in a phase 2, which is a little scary, of our upgrades. So, but no, it's exciting. We'll sleep at some point.
I'll have to ask both yourself and Michelle, did you guys celebrate the 4th of July, and was it 4th of July at distance, or was the whole state just going crazy? Michelle, I'll go to you first. Was it crazy in your state, or was it?
It was crazy, and I didn't go anywhere. And I was invited to a housewarming party from one of my fellow Avixa Women's Council leaders. They bought a new home during the pandemic. Congratulations. Just unfortunately, they're very anti-mask, and we're Facebook friends, and I know that. And I certainly, people have a right to be stupid, so I can't take away anybody's inalienable rights. I couldn't, as much as I wanted to see her, I thought, what, do I go for 10 minutes? And then as soon as 2 more people show up, now we're at 6 and then I leave. You know what I mean?
They say it takes 15 minutes to contract the virus. Do you wait to 14 minutes and 59 seconds? Gotta go.
I know. I don't know. I hate to be fearful, but, there's a lot of reticence on my part. So just because, people are like, well, if you're wearing a mask, why does it matter if I'm not wearing a mask? And I'm like, oh, flawed logic. Okay. So. No, yeah.
What about yourself, Joe? Did you stay at home or?
We stayed at home, mainly because normally I live on a little lake in a little suburban area, and they usually do a fireworks show and a little, community parade, but that was all canceled. So we just stayed in. We grilled. The kids are grown up and out of the house and all, so it's just different. But I did see. It looked like the silent majority of in Southern California spoke loudly. I don't know if you saw a video passing around of all the home fireworks that people were putting off. It was actually pretty cool. If you just kind of Google like LA and fireworks show, someone took a drone and you could just see LA just thrown all over, and it's pretty cool. I didn't see any of it. I heard a lot of it, but there was.
It's interesting. I didn't know you live on a lake. There's a lake in Louisiana where they do the fireworks show as well. Unfortunately, a storm came through and lightning struck the fireworks display that they had already staged, and it just went up all on its own without any outside. So some people caught it on video, but it wasn't the fireworks spectacular that they had been planning.
Yeah. Oh, and you have to put lake in parentheses. Or in quotations, because it's the kind of lake where they got to pour chlorine in. It's a very man-made lake. It's very well manicured. The fountains are nice, you know.
Those are my favorite types of lakes.
Graham was talking
But
about...
you can take the boat out on it, so there you go.
Oh, cool.
Graham was talking about the Simpsons movie. That just sounds like the nuclear power plant, Graham, is nearby. You know, radioactive material.
Absolutely.
Now,
who lives in Springfield?
Yeah, exactly. Now, we talked before about conference. If we think back of our episode where we were talking about what's going to happen, well, we found out that InfoComm went virtual. Did you guys enjoy InfoComm virtual, or what did you get out of it?
I love the VIXA.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just not the same. There was some great content, and I enjoyed the great content. And that's all I'm going to say.
The content was there, the experience was missing.
Yeah, the experience, it was.
Well said.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, no one's nailed it yet. I mean, even running a virtual conference myself and everyone, it's so hard to do, right? And it's so hard to keep it organic. And it's
I
so hard
arguably enjoyed the HEPMA virtual conference, which was a predecessor. I really did. That I felt more engaged in that virtual conference, and I don't even work in higher ed. I just work with higher ed, and I love that. I don't know, it just the group was more engaged, I guess. So yeah.
I'm going to sell LTSMG, and Adam is the only person that's actually offered me free swag for attending all the webinars. I was told that I'm going to get a light meter out of it with LTSMG. So I just
I need to sort that out, don't I? Yeah.
I think from personal experience, because I sat through some of the HEPMA, I also sat through some other virtual conferences. I think the bit they'll never be able to replicate, which will make adoption of it continually difficult, is emotion. You don't get the emotion of being in a room, seeing people, feeling the audience when it's at its highs or it's at lows. You just can't transfer the emotion through a virtual platform. I mean, it's not even about physical touch. I mean, I shook somebody's hand for the first time in 16, 17 weeks yesterday, and it felt weird. It's like,
yeah.
But it's the first time I've done it. I was like, can I? So naturally, though, first thing I did, straight to my car.
Yeah, hand sanitizer everywhere.
Hand sanitizer everywhere. I was like, I wouldn't have done that.
Dan Lee captures the not doing InfoComm perfectly well. But here in the UK, we go to InfoComm to move a whole time zone away from home. Which means you're not being hounded by work, you're not being pestered by work, so you can really immerse yourself in the show and only the show. When we're back here, it's the wrong time of day, and I'm videoed out by 6, 7.
Good point.
It's the wrong time of day. It's online. You're missing the emotion that Graham said. I didn't even try, if I'm honest. I really didn't even try. My whole raison d'etre for going to InfoComm is to get on another time zone, even just talk to the colleagues that I traveled with in a unique way, because we're not being pestered by everyone else. Everything's lacking when you virtualize it, because, I mean, at best, the best coast is the Vegas one. Being 8 hours away from the UK is good. It's actually a good thing for us.
Yeah. No, I agree with what Jason's saying and with what everyone's saying. You had your main showcases on InfoComm, but I just found that the site was confusing. Like, if I want to find out about who is exhibiting new tech, I have to go into a different menu, a different page, and then finding out that, or the whole virtual meeting people, if you want to talk to them. No, it's like, you show me a logo, I'll click on it, and I'll see that what that company is offering the following. Okay, I want to find out about their latest products. But trying to find out who is exhibitions at certain times, no, that wasn't working, and especially in the time zones for Europe, it wasn't working. They did have some EMEA stuff at the beginning of the day. When I say beginning of the day, it was about midday, so because of the time zone difference. So all these, I did the virtual 5K run around, or walk in my view, around North County Dublin, you know, but the table quiz, I would have loved to have taken part in the virtual table quiz, but again, it was like 2 o'clock in the morning here in Ireland and in England that no one's interested in doing. Okay, Graham has a point here.
No, I was the only Briton that attended.
Oh, he was the only person.
He represented. Yeah.
Yeah. Good old.
You've got young children as well, Graham. How'd you do that?
Say again?
You've got young children as well. How'd you do that?
Well, the crazy thing was, and I planned it so badly, that finished at 2 a.m. and I had to be on a call to Australia at 6:30, so I just didn't bother going to bed. I just worked through.
Well,
I
see,
just about-
JP, that's how you become the AV professional of the year, right? You go above and beyond, and you just don't sleep. Ask Joe Way, ask Graham Kirkpatrick. That's how this stuff happens.
I wouldn't recommend it though too often.
No, that's why NEC got a bill for 8 hours of overtime. Where
I wish. But yeah, Jason, I won't lie. It was a moment of madness. But I thought to myself, you know what? I've committed to it. It's like when we do the AV happy hours. I don't adjust my head in my head when I'm on it. That we're actually doing this on a Thursday night and a Friday night. So when I'm getting kicking myself off at 3:15 in the morning of a Friday morning, forget my alarm's going off in like 3.5 hours to wake me up to get the kids ready for school, and then I'm back at my desk in 5 hours, and I'm like, why do I do this to myself? Why not just leave at midnight, let everyone get on with it? No, because you're an idiot, Graham.
Let's talk about some events that's going to happen in the not so distant future, and one that I really question how it's going to go ahead is the AV Awards. Adam, are you attending the AV Awards this year?
I don't know really. We've entered as a team of the year again, but I don't know. I'm in two minds. It's moved to October, isn't it, or November? I can't remember.
Yeah, November.
November, yeah. So, I mean, it's quite a long time. It's a long way away. If it's okay, I might go. It'd be good to see everyone, but I just don't know how big events like that are going to run.
How many people can meet at one stage in England at the moment? Now, I know the largest that we can have is 50 at a time. So even churches have slightly reopened, but at distance again. So I can't see how they can do a venue like the AV Awards.
I think it's 500 still, Justin. I think.
Is it? Okay. Wow, you guys are way ahead of us with regards to numbers that can meet. I personally,
I'm not sure how. Again, it's about experience, isn't it? It's going to be very different, and the AV Awards is quite an experience to attend. With distancing and everything else in it, it will be obviously completely different. So I don't know. I think. I'll reserve my decision on that for a little while.
What about you, Graham? Can you see yourself going to any AV Awards?
And if so, do you have an extra seat available at your table? And for my wife, I love NEC. NEC is one of my favorites.
I think the hardest thing is about the AV Awards, from my point of view, is typically. Historically, it's always fallen on my stepdaughter's birthday, so I've never immersed myself in the whole shenanigans and jovialness of the awards. I've always driven there. I've always literally done the awards, see if NEC wins, and got in my car and driven home. I mean, even at 1 o'clock in the morning, London to home is a 2-hour drive from where the AV Awards has historically been held. So I've never, probably for the last 5 years now, I don't want to say I haven't enjoyed it. I've loved catching up with colleagues I may not necessarily get hold of, but I haven't really thrown myself in the whole experience. But I don't think I'll attend this year. By the way, I just Googled it. I don't know where I got 500 from. Apparently, it's against the law if it's more than 30 in the UK at the moment.
30. Okay, yeah.
For multi-purpose spaces. So,
okay.
It's going to be a problem.
I also don't think the AV Awards is going to go ahead in the version.
I can't see it.
Yeah.
No,
it's a huge expense to host the awards to start with. I think that, Adam may know different figures because Adam's been a judge in the past as well. But I think it's something silly like £100 a head for a table.
It is
traditionally at 12.
It's more than that.
Is it?
It's nearly £200.
Oh, yeah. So there you go then. And no one's going to pay that money, and they're not going to recoup the money if they send it all virtual. I think the awards will be gifted this year. I don't think the awards show will be hosted. I want to be
very
wrong.
difficult. I mean, because obviously, I mean, LTSMG, we run our conference in November, and that, you know, just trying to think about how you can do that safely is just a minefield. You know, there's certainly, from an insurance point of view, you've got there's nobody will cover you for anything. So you can book your conference and everything, and we have another spike and a shutdown and lockdown. Everything's gone. You've lost all the money, and that's a really difficult position to be in. So, you know, that's having a face-to-face event with large numbers of people. I just don't know how you can pull it off risk-free. You know, that's health and safety risk, financial risk, and all sorts of things. So, yeah, I don't know. It's difficult. It's a difficult one. But then it's November, but you have to make the decisions now. That's the trouble. So,
where was the LTSMG supposed to take place? This
University of Northampton, and we were using Silverstone as the exhibition space. So, you know, huge spaces, but even so, for one, you know, a university, if I said to my boss, I'm going to go away for a 3-day residential conference in November, I suspect the answer from the university would be, no, you're not.
Yeah.
And I suspect most universities are going to be in the same position.
Well,
you know, I'm wondering whether that decision is still going to be the case for ISE next year, because that's February. I don't know whether you know, at the moment we've got a travel ban at work. You can't go anywhere, sensibly, quite rightly. When that lifts, who knows? I don't know. So, yeah, I mean, like all the others, LTSMG, we're looking at how we can run an online event and make it fun. So, you know,
give out just seat vouchers all the way, Adam.
Yeah, well, maybe.
I'd just deliver some beer, deliveries to the house.
As you can imagine, those kind of ideas have already been put on the table, judging by how we normally run things. So, yeah, it's good. But, you know, you need to make the things engaging, like we've said before. So you need to attend, and it needs to be like a real event, like our real event, and that's very difficult to do online. So you need to make some compromises to try and make it as good as you can, and that's what we're in the process of trying to plan at the moment.
That's what I haven't experienced in any of these virtual environments. Okay, the closest I've come to is the QSC, which LTSMG hosted, where we are able to physically see some products. But I just thought for something like InfoComm, there was no physical seeing of the products unless you dug right down into the site. I think bigger exposure could have been done with the main products that were available at InfoComm. You know, it took the likes of other podcasters, I won't name them, but you can guess who I'm talking about, to actually show us physical products on InfoComm again, even though it was virtual. And that's the biggest problem.
Yeah, question for you though. And maybe this is even a question for Graham and Michelle, being manufacturer side. Once InfoComm said we're out, we're not doing this, did you all change your release schedules to no longer be it's got to be at InfoComm? And so therefore you don't really need, because I didn't see much announcement of, okay, this is the bright and shiny new thing. There might have been a few things, but in general, that's always been kind of a key point in the industry that didn't seem to be there. And now it's, okay, we'll release when we can get our own week to be able to make it shine. We'll release here, we released early, and you started seeing that. So maybe that's why you don't get the products that you wanted to see out of an InfoComm like you normally have, because there was no need to have to do that. I don't know. What are your...
There was a charge associated with having the virtual booth. The products they showcased were actually the stuff we talked about at ISE, which did go on. Yeah, you know, I do think everybody's just kind of in a bit of a holding pattern. There's some stuff that we had talked about at ISE that was coming that I think is brilliant, but it's still not here yet. And we're like, hey, Israel, make it a priority. We want this now. You know, like this is good stuff. And the ability to, and then people had tons of questions that I did speak with, and I didn't have any information. I'm like, I don't know. I mean, Vegeta, who is a marketing professional that works in AV, she was like, oh, Michelle, can you give me a virtual booth tour? I was like, I don't know. Can I? I have no idea how this platform works. Like, we got zero instruction, zero
I was going to
education.
ask, Michelle, was there any training? Like,
No.
No.
I was learning just like you were, Justin, like logging on and where does this go and how does this work? And I mean, I just went through my territory, and everybody that was a participant that wasn't with the manufacturer in a state that I cover, I just was like, hey, I'm interested in meeting you. And 0 out of 0% of all, 100% of all strangers had zero desire to meet me. A couple of friends that I already had scheduled some meetings, so we could be like, hi, this sucks, we hate COVID. But outside of that, it was very lonely. It was the loneliest InfoComm ever.
I just think where AV manufacturers, where AV professionals, it's not reinventing the wheel here, guys. Like, okay, we can't be physically with people. Right, we want to show off our product. What do? We get a camera. We demo the product in front of a camera. I don't think anyone actually physically did that. Now, I stand corrected if someone tells me, no, people had pre-recorded videos that they played.
We did.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah. If you went to our booth, our virtual booth, which not everybody had them, like some of the big boys did not have virtual booths. We had videos that we had taped at ISC of people discussing the products. Our booth is kind of in different sections depending upon what the subject matter is. And so, yeah, we did have that. And I think we had 5 products maybe.
Michelle, you just balance it out and say, right, the cost of being in a virtual environment and a virtual booth at InfoComm versus, hold on a minute, we could maybe design something simple on our website. We could actually do our own webinar.
I know.
And get people to join in. I think between that and I think a lot of people miss the ball of going, offer virtual swag. It's what gets people to booths at ISE, at InfoComm when you're physically there. What have you got to give away to get people inside your booth? What's going to make people come along to your virtual booth at InfoComm or at any of these other webinars unless you're giving away something for free or offering a competition? There was no competitions that I know of. There was no... The only thing that I've been able to pick up as virtual swag is from doing the virtual 5K run, and Gary K is going to send me a t-shirt. Woohoo! And so I have one thing that's come out of it. But I think that for something that it's not costing them, the manufacturers, as much money, they could have offered a lot more freebies and competitions.
Go ahead.
Sorry, after you, Michelle, please.
Well, I know for us, that the allocation that we were given by corporate for InfoComm in light of the fact that, India was completely shut down, 0% sales, our global lack of business, the fact that we were having people doing rolling furloughs in other parts of the country. We had PPP, which is a paycheck protection program that you could apply for depending upon the size and nature of your business. We did qualify, but as soon as that expired at the beginning of July, domestically, we had to lay off 20% of our workforce, which was really sad and heartbreaking because they really run it in the US like a family business, and those are not empty words. And so unfortunately, we're just trying to stay alive and trying to keep the doors open along with our end user and integrator partners. And so the money just, I guess it depends. The money just wasn't there. It's not like it was a pot of gold and that we didn't have all these other extenuating circumstances. I think but I do agree that swag would have been helpful.
What about yourself, Graham?
Yeah, I was going to comment really on 2 things that Michelle had said, just to expand on them. I think the first one is there's a natural assumption that just because these big corporates weren't paying tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars for booth space and staff costs, etc., that actually there wasn't still a cost associated to doing this. So to expand on that, I mean, ultimately, there was going to be, like you said, and time discounted, I think, being able to prepare yourself for full virtual booth tours. But without physically showing products, you're not going to generate interest, which is going to generate your quota, which is going to generate your sales. And that all has to go through the panel fight line. I mean, I can't speak for Kramer, but I know from an NEC standpoint, I mean, we're at probably, I don't know, globally 40% of where we should be year to date.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a massive kick in the balls. I mean, politely speaking. That's the first element. I think the second element about virtual swag, though, is there's a difference between someone actually coming to your booth and spending 15 minutes with you going around, picking up a goodie bag and walking off, as opposed to somebody just registering to say, oh, I'll be there.
Send your email address on your address. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then making no effort to actually follow through with that.
Yeah.
I attended, I was just looking through my calendar, I attended 11 sessions on the InfoComm through various parts of the day. And yeah, most of it was in line with the EMEA timescales. I only did 3 outside of that, outside of my working day. And I think the improvement factor needs to come from a wider audience. I mean, I don't think it's just a case of a manufacturer and an end user integration. I mean, no one that I know of here has factored in, obviously, how this has affected the intermediate channel partners, the system integrators, because ultimately they lose both ways, right? Because they might bump into a new client, or they may stumble across a stand and stumble across a product, and none of that inertia or impromptuness is available when you do it remotely. And I think that's a really big challenge they need to overcome. I was trying to find the email, but I can't remember. But InfoComm was also cancelled very late. Let's not forget that. I mean, it was cancelled late April, early May. So technically 4 weeks, 5 weeks maybe, to give all these companies to transfer. In our case, which would have been, I think it's like 800 square meters of stand, to 3-4 days of virtual content. Yes, you can post it afterwards, but, and this is a conversation, we've run a series of webinars for EMEA since. There's a very big difference between a webinar, which is can be interactive 2 ways if the audience wants to participate, and watching a recording. And I know if somebody sends me a recording, I may or may not watch it, and I definitely won't watch it in real time. Or I'll start watching it, someone will take over, I'll come back and watch it, and I may not ever finish it. And that I think is definitely a challenge where there was not time to overcome as to how you're going to keep this live, fresh, and current. And I think that scared people away. I know that Avixa released numbers saying that 40% of the audience was online. What was the total audience, though? What was the total audience numbers? I mean, 40% of 10,000 people, when that show would attract 55,000 people in real time, actually, that's not something to be shouting from the rooftops about.
Well, let's put this on a different perspective with what Graham's just said there. Adam, you did a couple of webinars with LTSMG. Were the numbers low, or were they at the average, or were they high?
It varied. It sort of, because we run them, we did quite a lot. I don't know, like 25, 30 or something like that with various different manufacturers. Depending on the time of day, depending on the numbers we got. So, you know, at sort of 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning were really good. If you started to get into the afternoon, it tended to drop off really heavily. We did some with Greg Jeffries from Visual Displays, and that was more educational. A lot about discus and piscar and all that kind of stuff. They were really, really well attended. They were. So we kind of went for the morning slot that worked pretty well for us with the manufacturer stuff. Just did like one a day for 5 days on various different things. And we were sort of, getting really, really good numbers for that. So it depended. So some, bombed really badly, sort of, 10, 15 people, but others were, knocking on the door of 100-ish, which, it was pretty good for us.
The average, which is the normal numbers that you would nearly have at an LTSMG conference, around 100.
Yeah, so, the conference for the delegates is normally, the residential stuff is about 70 people. We normally, because we fully fund everybody, so we have to limit it somewhere. But yeah, so we were getting more people than we would at a conference, which was pretty good. I mean, that whole experience gave us some good ideas about what we could do in November. And actually, me logging into a load of different webinars and different sessions and the Avixa stuff and you know, over the last few months, and you can see people's journey. You know, it started off at a load of webinars, which, like Graham said, were just recordings, and then it got more interactive. And I've kind of got like a what works and what doesn't in my head now. So, you know, we've got the benefit of end of the year. We can sort of try and learn from everybody's. You know, everyone was trying to gear up and change the way they were trying to teach and sell and everything. So, yeah, it's interesting. There is definitely some hooks that you can get people into it with. So, you know, some of your things you've been mentioning may or may not be something you'll be hearing about soon.
Okay, not going to let away any secrets. Joe, with the HEDMA, like, how have you got on? Do you find the numbers are up or down, or what you're hoping?
I was utterly shocked at how good our numbers were. I mean, I was like, and not only that, when I looked at, and I will not give away names at all, but when I looked at the people who were in the sessions, I was like, holy crap, like, this is crazy. Like, this is something, you know? And so that was kind of cool. But, you know, and it's not necessarily about that. It's obviously the whole purpose of HETMA is to build up and kind of advocate for our vertical, and to be able to have a community of people be able to share ideas that all have the same, you know, just like LTSMG. I mean, it's the same idea of being able to share and build up one another. And it was really interesting when I saw how much it just took off. And that was with, honestly, not really promoting it as much as I'd wanted to, because it just took a while to get to work through all the details with the VIXA, since we obviously, once they canceled InfoComm in person, and we held all of the sessions, you know, we hosted all the sessions that would have been held in person at HEPMA conference for the higher ed vertical. So it took a while to kind of work through those details, giving us really only 2.5 weeks to really push it out and promote it. But in a way, it's okay, because we were all so busy that it really wouldn't have mattered anyway. And it actually makes an interesting point about watching the videos. None of us have probably ever gone back to one of the conferences and rewatched the videos. And in fact, even if you look at like with us, you had, you know, AV Nation, and you have Rave Part 1, and then us, and then InfoComm, and then Rave Part 2. It's like bam, 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 all these right in a row, which actually I've yet to release the HETMA videos. And that's, first off, notice that nobody noticed that. That's the point, that nobody actually goes back and watch them. And part of it was because I'm busy and trying to play catch up and what.
And it's a lot of heavy lifting, right, to do that. Yeah.
But also, I recognize I didn't want. What good is it throwing all these videos out when you have InfoComm going on? Like, I could have finished up the week and throw them out. So what we're doing is actually going to release it now that they're kind of dying down, and kind of do a re-release, you know, as in the next couple weeks, and go, here's all those sessions that you couldn't make, because we heard the same thing. Like, people would jump in and jump out. It's actually the beauty of ours, that you don't have to plan to attend for the whole thing. It's meant to kind of pop in, pop out, you know, join the community when you're busy. So, but we also knew that that was really impacted. When I watched the numbers go, I mean, outside the 3 keynote panels, the beginning of each day, were just skyrocket numbers. And by the way, and all 3 of them were just fantastic. I mean, they were just awesome. But then also the lunch and learns with Crestron, Extron, and Shure were skyrocket numbers. So those were obviously things that people actually wanted to see, made sure to either put them on their calendar in general, and then kind of popped in and popped out of other stuff.
You said lunch and learn, Joe. Did you offer any virtual lunches?
No, it was actually a plan. So originally we had talked about getting, you know, like either having sponsoring. I'd actually had a liquor sponsor for the happy hours, but that ended up being a horrific nightmare of how we're going to ship all that and what the costs were going to be. So it was kind of, so we had some ideas to do that. And do like, hey, the first 50 people who sign up, but then it was the, well, who is it going to be? Are you going to just send it to all the different, because we know we get a good mix of people too. And then you feel like a jerk if you're like, yeah, I know you signed up, but you're not in higher ed, so you don't get any. You know what I mean? Like, so how do you actually do that? We haven't figured that out yet, but it was kind of one of those ideas. So, but yeah, so that's what we actually call it lunchish and learn, because it was what 10 a.m. for me, or 10,000 time, but then it was like 1 o'clock on the East Coast. Like, you know, if you were in Mountain Time, you got to actually have lunch, right, or whatever. So that was about it.
Now,
but no.
Do we actually see ISE happening in, like, I think Spain is getting another spike at the moment of cases. Do we see us going to Barcelona in February?
That's a great question.
Who knows?
Well, I think Mike Blackman already came out and said, regardless of whether Americans are still banned in Europe, ISE shall go on, which really hurt my feelings. XOXO, Mike. But I get it. But I don't know. I mean, I was, it's weird because I was kind of holding back a little bit, thinking, oh, well, this will probably be done in, like a 3 to 4 month period was what I originally anticipated. And I'll be able to get on the road and travel. And now I'm just like, okay, Michelle, let's stop being in denial. It's a very comfortable place, but let's be realistic. And, you're just going to have to engage people remotely. And 2020 is screwed, for lack of a more formal term. And
does anyone actually want to remember this year when we get to like New Year's
Eve?
Go, oh my God, what a year that's been.
I'm going to celebrate. I know. I just hope that when we do get to New Year's Eve, that we will be able to celebrate that 2021 is going to be different. That's my hope.
What a roaring 20s we're having.
Yeah. Honestly, people talk about the second spike. I'm thinking ahead and going to third spike. If you talk about 50, I know it's the States, it's massive, but when you talk about 54 to 55,000 new cases, no one has a hold on this in America. Joe, I'm going to put out my crystal ball and say, I don't see you getting over to Ireland if there's spikes across the States with COVID-19. I don't think you're going to be
You better let me in. It's November.
I know.
We have to have a beer together in November. That's plenty of time.
Yeah, well, you just bring your face mask.
Hey, I'm going to Jamaica in a week and a half, so
Are you?
I'm
nice.
Yeah.
What city?
I know. Negril.
Oh, I love me some Negril. Awesome.
Yeah. So, and they're open. They're reopened. So.
Which resort?
I don't know. My wife takes.
Are you allowed to travel?
I just she just sends me a calendar invite, tells me where we're going.
So you are actually allowed out of the States in 2 weeks' time?
Oh, yeah. We can travel.
Yeah, we haven't been banned from the Caribbean. Yeah.
Okay. So you do have a list of places that you're allowed to travel to. You're not allowed to travel to Europe at the moment, I guess.
Currently, I can still go to Ireland.
Can you? All right.
In England, yeah. We've checked it to see if we're allowed to, but we are, but we can't go to. I don't know. I don't know how you guys refer to it. Mainland Europe.
Sure. Okay. Well, let's put it this way: if we found out tomorrow that IC was still going ahead, or if there was cases, if we're in the current scenario in February, but we're allowed travel, would you go? Adam, would you go to IC?
Yeah, probably. If it, I'd need to be convinced, but I'd really like to go. But I'd have to, you have to see. It's whether the organisation I work for would allow it. One, whether my wife would allow it. Two,
yeah.
But yeah, hopefully it's far enough in for me to say yes. It'd be good. So.
Graham, would you travel?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I'll be sure. I'm on business. If I die, Shirley becomes rich.
Okay, that's one way of looking at it. Joe, you've been to one ISE. Would you go to Barcelona if you're allowed to go?
I'm planning on being there. So, if now, I may be self-funding it, depending upon whether or not, because I don't think that our institution will allow non-essential travel yet. At that point, at least, well, let me rephrase that. I already know they won't, because we're blocking on non-essential travel for all this next academic year. So I would go if it's, if it's open, and I still think it's important, and I would just,
Good to have you. Eleanor joins us from AV Nation. We've been discussing different bits and pieces about COVID-19, InfoComm, ISE.
Okay.
We're just on the topic of ISE and Barcelona.
Okay.
If Eleanor, if you thought that ISE could go ahead in February, would you attend if you're allowed to travel?
I'm jumping in right at the right in the deep end, aren't I? Yeah, I mean, I'm a journalist. I work for AV Nation. We have every intention of attending if we're allowed to travel. The U.S. is currently banned from the European Union, so banned from traveling to the European Union. So we're just keeping an eye on that situation, as well as the COVID-19 developments on the vaccine and so on.
Yeah, well, what's your future thoughts on, I'm going to go around the table here. What is your future thoughts for COVID-19 and working remotely? Like, Adam, currently our university is saying, well, blended learning, working remotely and online as much as possible into term one, which will bring us up to December. Do you see it going further than that with COVID-19?
I don't know. Who knows? I think, I mean, my university is the same. So I think we have a plan for semester A and going into semester B, which is January next year. It'll change, I guess, on a daily, weekly basis as things develop. But it's kind of difficult. You need to give the students some information. So, like I said, it'll be a blended learning for the first bit, and then we'll see where we are. So really difficult. But the working from home thing's really interesting, actually, because I think there was a lot of people who weren't convinced that it could be successful are now. So, using Zoom and Teams and everything, a lot of the senior management, had to be convinced that people would be effective working from home. And I think that battle's been won. So hopefully it does change our landscape a little bit.
Now, with some, you mentioned earlier about some of the phases that you have for installs, and do you see any of this being pulled back and rolled back because less students are on campus?
Yeah, well, I mean, all the universities are going to be financially affected. So until our student numbers are confirmed, usually that's sort of in mid-December that, the students who are there, we know they're going to stay. We're starting our semester A sort of mid-September, but we're not starting the teaching until a little bit into October, just to allow people to get into the country. If there's issues with flights, to do any quarantine they may have to do. So, trying to make it as accessible as possible. So, we obviously the university is in constant contact with students who've had places offered, to see, especially the internationals. Are you going to come and attend? So, I think the news is hopefully pretty good. I don't, we're not getting any information from the university saying there's a massive problem. However, I think they're being careful, quite rightly, about what they're spending. So, our project's looking into next year. There's not a lot been approved at the moment, but that's as expected, I guess, until we know the situation in December.
Is there any projects that you looked at, Adam, where you just went, okay, I'm going to do this differently now because of COVID-19?
Yeah, there's a few. I mean, we did start the transitioning over to the wireless presentation a little while ago. We started to make it a little bit more embedded into what we're doing for our teaching rooms. There is a little bit of a jump now that we could do, contactless presentation and stuff like that. So we're kind of there. We need a little bit of alteration, but the tweaks to our main system schematics are small. So the next bunch of delivery will be a slight advance on what we're doing at the moment. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I've got 21 install projects stacked up, ready to go. But actually going forward from that, there's not a lot on the horizon at the moment, but I wouldn't have expected it to be like that. So.
Joe, I'm going to throw the same type of question at you. Like, do you think that anything that's changed with COVID-19 with regards to your installs or moving forward with projects on your campus?
Well, all it's done is push them up more, and it grew the scope. I mean, again, and I've said I've been lucky in the fact that I already had a solution for this before. It was already in the plan to upgrade all of our spaces to, bring us into hybrid teaching and do that as an enterprise solution prior to COVID. So once COVID happened, it was, oh, cool. I look like the smartest guy in the room all of a sudden. And then, it became.
That's a great point. How many people have just figured out that the smartest guy in the room? Well, we always knew it ourselves, but all of a sudden that people are listening to the AV techs going, oh, Justin, how do you do a Zoom call? It's like, yeah, if you listen to me years ago about virtual meetings and how to,
in their defense, academics,
in your faculty,
they had to go from campus-based teaching to online delivery in 7 days. So that's, changing everything they've done for the last 5-10 years.
Yep.
Rewrite all their content, think of a new way to engage with the students. And actually, we've got a department, Learning and Teaching Innovation Centre, geared up. That's all they do is teach people how to use technology and use technology to develop their teaching with it. So obviously they've been stacked completely since this started. But, it's a massive change for a university. So suddenly they're bombarded with, right, you've been standing in front of a class of 30 people plus for, X number of years. That's all out the window now. You've got to do it differently. So, yeah, I think we've, I've been a bit okay with our academics. They've done a really good job of getting this all working. So, missed emails, we can let them live with that. We can let them go.
The thing is, you make a good point. The thing, the technology is actually the easy part.
Absolutely.
It really is. Don't tell anyone outside of our industry that, but it really is the easy part. I really hate to be a faculty member right now.
Yeah.
You're realizing, especially at an elite institution where it was known that you got in, you got your tenure, you got your classroom, you focused on how to instruct, you got good at doing it that way. And then all of a sudden you're told, okay, now you're going online, change all that. You're thrown in, your course isn't designed to be delivered that way. You're not used to it. It's a different feel. And now we're going to tell them, okay, come back. Now you're going to do this hybrid thing, and you're going to have some people around, some are going to be online, and now they have to learn again. And then you see these articles of people going, oh, online learning sucks, and this isn't worth it. Seriously, you know what your faculty members have to go through to do this? And the thing is, their knowledge is still just as valuable, whether it's in person or online. They're just a learning curve. And there's a learning curve both for the students and the faculty. And I would hate to be them. We have technology. I mean, if you throw money at it, we can fix the problem. We have technologies that can make this happen. And right now the purse strings are open, right? I mean, everyone's throwing money at this stuff because the only way you're going to be able to collect tuition and stay open.
I think it comes back to something that what introduced me to you way back, even it wasn't before ISC and InfoComm and everything. You wrote an article at the time when you were, I don't know, was it part of your doctorate, but it was getting people to embrace the new technology. We can throw money at technology. If the faculty members don't understand it or don't know how to use it, where it's good as dead, you can throw as much money as you want at it. But it's changing their mindset of, well, and this is what happened with COVID. They had to change their mindset. They had to use, they had to, figure out how to do online classes. But for me, working in a school of nursing and with clinical skills labs, this is our biggest challenge. Some people still want to teach in clinical skills labs and are talking about, okay, can we do pods and can we work in small groups to show the simulation? And then others are saying, well, hold on, we're partnered with all these major hospitals in Ireland. When they go out on work experience, is that enough? And then there's me in the middle going, okay, well, I'm just the AV technician. You tell me what technology you want put in the rooms and give me a budget and I'll put it in the rooms. But it's getting between this fine line. And then I'll throw out this question. Some people are going, okay, virtual reality. We can all do it virtual reality, and we can do simulations on virtual reality. Personally, I hate virtual reality. I hate this whole idea of like cartoon characters. Even if you want to, some of them, yes, I agree, very realistic. But I seen one product, I won't name the product, but it brought me into the environment, and it's all virtual reality and whatnot, and you can do it without a headset, which one thing that annoys me about virtual reality is like, we must wear a headset. No, we don't have to wear a headset. You know, let's have mixed reality here, guys, if we're going to do anything. But it brought you into the environment, and then they had pre-recorded voices of the nurse and the patient, and the student would then go to the machine and select different menus on the screen, and it's pre-recorded. Well, that's just like taking a multiple choice exam. Students are just going to press every button until they find out which is the right procedure. So I then asked the person that owned the product, okay, can students actually just use their own voice? Oh, it's in beta stage. Okay, so you don't have a finished product, is my view. You know, you want to have the people being able to physically talk back to the room. And then I thought to myself, well, hold on, let's simplify this a minute, guys. If you had an environment where you're allowed to have certain people go into a lab, bring the faculty into the lab, get an IP camera, stream it on whatever system you want. There's questions whether they want to use Zoom or not now. Stream it on Zoom, have everyone in the classroom, and someone can put their hand up, unmute their mic, and talk back to the faculty member. It's as cheap as chips in comparison to spending a lot of money on a platform or products like virtual reality, which is, I believe, very much in its infancy.
Did you say cheap as chips?
Cheap as...
Is that like a phrase?
Yes, it is. Adam, back me up on this. Is this a British phrase?
It is, yeah. Chips are cheap.
Yeah. Chips are cheap. Yeah.
They are really cheap.
Yeah.
Any more than not.
I'm going to go around the search. Like, do you guys get a lot of this? Well, I'm guessing, Joe, you get a fair bit of it in higher ed, and Adam, you get a bit of it. But do you see some platforms trying to take advantage? Oh, everyone's trying to take advantage, but see certain areas where they're really trying to push through the net now because of COVID-19 and go, we can offer something different.
I think to answer that, Justin, we're exploring it for various reasons. But I mean, I think Zoom have got quite clever with the Facebook Live plugin that they've got. So they don't have to necessarily force students to get to a Zoom account if it's going to just be a webinar-based scenario, because they can push it out onto another social media platform, which, let's be fair, 4 billion people around the world are part of already.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. I mean, I'm a believer in Zoom. I used Zoom before COVID, and I'll use it post-COVID, and it's given me sleepless nights during COVID. I've been really polite about it, but I mean, they got it right. Yes, they had some issues, but they got it right. You only got to look at their accelerated numbers. They went from 10 million users to whatever it was, 300 million users in a month. I think that the new kids on the block, though, are challenging them. I mean, Google Meet, with the exception of audio-only participants, will do everything that Zoom does, and I think Google Meet is the new kid on the block. It's just whether or not they've got the multi-device support that Zoom have got right, and I'm yet to see that. I've had one or two experiences on Google Meet. But
I find Google is nice. We have a Google campus, but Google, I find latency problems with Google in comparison to Zoom.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Yeah. Eleanor, I know you come from a totally different background as editor of AV Nation. You know, you've probably heard the higher ed, you've heard the private, you've heard the public sector. What's your thoughts on what's coming up in the future with regards to COVID-19, how people work and...
Well, I mean, for us, we've been really focused on the UCC space, which is obviously part of the education and workspace workflow practices, right? How that technology is evolving quite quickly to address these the challenges of working from home and distance learning. I haven't heard the virtual reality thing come into play, but I think one thing that we really need to think about too is what the cost is to the end user or the student, because a lot of students do not have the money to invest in these technologies that are going to, that, you know, we're encouraging teachers to use this virtual reality. Well, how are kids going to use that? How are students who are on scholarships and, you know, just don't have the money to facilitate this technology growth? I think that's something that we really need to pay attention to. We can talk about the evolution as much as we want, but is it tenable in terms of pricing, and can everyone use it? Is it accessible to everyone? These are the questions I'm focused on as a journalist.
Well, I know, Eleanor, you must, I don't know, did we get the time zone wrong, but we were on for an hour.
We did.
Don't worry about that.
The conversion was told me 11 a.m. CT. Sorry about that.
Not all. Don't worry about that. We have been on for an hour, but I'm gonna ask you this question. I'm guessing, well, things are changing all the time with regards to COVID. Sometimes you can travel, sometimes you can't travel.
Sure.
It's the summer holidays. Graham, first of all, the kids are off. It's the summer holidays. Are you going to be going anywhere on the summer holidays with the kids?
I mean, we may do day trips, but yeah, that'll be the extent of it. It's the uncertainty much earlier on has pretty much put pay to us as families booking anything. We looked at a couple of UK staycations, and I mean, we're talking like £2,500 to £3,000 just to stay in the UK. I was like, forget it. I'd rather spend that money elsewhere.
Well, you know what? I have Centre Parks in Ireland booked in October, and I've had it booked before COVID-19. Same idea that they're cancelling different parts of activities, but they're still trying to entice you. It's like, yeah, but we'll give you an extra €100 if you just keep your holiday. To be honest, it's a holiday. I have a 3-year-old and a 7-month-old. It's just getting away. We're not going outside of Ireland, but no, to be honest, even if they opened up the airports tomorrow and said we can travel wherever we want, I don't want to. I just think it's too much of a heavy risk. I haven't to use public transport since March, so I just don't want to take the risk.
Well, Justin, sorry to cut short across you. I'm a regular traveller through Heathrow, so I get their like daily updates. And Heathrow have made it mandatory now that through all aspects of being inside their airport, including car parks, you have to wear face masks. Anybody found not wearing a face mask, and that's travelling to, from, or through Heathrow, will be banned from being in the airport or any of the airport grounds. I mean, that's fine. Heathrow can mandate that, but if other incoming or outgoing airports don't and the airliners don't, it's a wasted effort.
Now, Eleanor, I know Tim is talking about hopefully getting to the AV Awards in London if it takes place and everything. For yourself, do you feel that you're going to travel for work or pleasure or anything during the summer?
This is an ongoing conversation, but for me personally, because of health concerns, I won't. I'm a diabetic, and I'm at high risk of, suffering badly if I get COVID. It's not going to be a mild case necessarily for me if I were to contract COVID-19. So I am in agreement with Tim and in the discussions with Tim, not going to travel until we are safe that I am not, at risk of catching this. I just moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma about 3 months ago in the middle of the lockdown, just as it began. And I've seriously not been out in Tulsa. I've been out in Tulsa maybe 4 times total since I've moved here. I have the apartment I'm in is my entire environment. So
you're doing all the research of what you're going to see when you are allowed to see it. Right, I know Graham has to cut off, and I better go and feed some 3-year-old children as well. But it's been great talking to you, Graham and Eleanor. Eleanor, I hope to have you again on as a later.
I apologize so much. I had the time wrong, and I thought I was in there. I was signing on early. I apologize for that.
The All Things TechIE podcast is a product of the Extreme Media Network. For advertising and sponsorship opportunities, please visit www.extrememedia.ie. That's XTREME media.ie.